Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. As you can see from the thumbnail, old Bessie here is a little sick. She's bleeding. This old girl's got 250,000 miles on it and then some, and I've got to do something about the oil leak. It's to the point where it's dangerous. It's leaking on the exhaust pipe and stinking, and I'm afraid it's going to catch on fire, so we're going to have to do something with it. So let me get it up in the air here and I'll show you what's cooking. Okay, as you can see, this thing is just saturated in oil. And if I can get the camera around here a little bit, I don't know if you can see it or not. Let's go around the back side. All that oil there, but it's leaking. If you see that stain right there, it's leaking right there on that exhaust pipe. It gets worse, you know, the more you drive it and the faster you go. And this drain plug here has been fixed once or twice. So we're going to put an oil pan on it too. See if you can get up there. There you go. There's where it's leaking. As you can tell, the belt's chattering too, so all that needs to be fixed. We're going to put an oil pan on it, fix the oil leaking front timing cover, which that'll be fun on this, but at least it doesn't have phasers, and go from there. So yeah, we're going to have to take this pipe off here. Hopefully it won't completely break, because this flex joint's not in the greatest of shape. That'll be the next thing on the agenda to get. Without further ado, we'll get the oil drained out of it, commence to ripping. Okay, first things first, we are going to take the battery cable loose. Because on this particular job, we will have to take the alternator off, which, if anybody knows anything about one of these 3-liter V6s or Escapes, they're kind of a pain in the can. They are underneath the back side, and this is a 4-wheel drive, so the drive shaft kind of gets in the way. Let's take this air box out of the way. Pop these wire clips off here, and I'm going to highly recommend, if you guys don't already, use bolt buckets. Find you anything like this, like a Planters Peanuts deal, put all your bolts in there, because even if you don't know where they go, at least they're going to be there, and when you go back together, you'll thank yourself. So I'll let this down a little bit. Take this cover off. Those are 8s. There's usually 3 nuts on these, but sometimes they get lost over time, which I think there's only one on this one left. And a magnet is your friend. Pull that dude off. It goes underneath the hose there in front, so alright, pull your air cleaner assembly off. Pop your vent hose out there. These rubber 90 degrees that they put on these valve covers get really soft over time. And this one is too. They'll like to blow a hole, and in fact that one's getting close. They'll like to blow a hole right in that groove, so, and that'll create a vacuum leak. The thing will run funny. pull that off. Okay, let's get your intake off. So you have to pull the valve covers to do this job. It's been a while since I've been into this dude, so gotta remember how the things come apart. As I recall, there's not a lot to take loose on this thing. Easiest way is just take these cable brackets out of the way. Slide that one forward. This has got a little spot here where the cable will slide through. Hold your tongue right, it'll come out. Just lay that off to the side for now. All right. Then there is like 6 or 8 bolts that holds the upper intake on. I'm gonna have to get an impact on there. The problem with these plastic intakes is once they get some time on them and age, they there is these little inserts. You can see one here, I'm sure, but these inserts like to spin inside the intake. So if you can get an impact on it like this, they'll come out usually. Okay. Again, magnet's your friend. They shouldn't come out, but yeah, see, they won't come out. So they'll stay in there. Okay. Like I said, it's been a day or two since I've done this. So, that's right. It's the EGR valve. My EGR gasket was swinging, and I think it already dropped down. Ouch. Yeah. Alright. Got your 3 clamps back here. Well, 2.5 almost. And the electrical harness back there. Right here, right here. We've got one more thing hanging us up, and that looks like this hose right here. Forgot about the oh yeah, don't forget about the vent tube for the transmission. It hangs on there too. And there you go. So that's your upper intake. Don't really need to do anything with the lowers. Oh, it's nice and clean in there. So next order of business is getting the coils off. Those are also 8mm. Probably make it easier if I go ahead and take these off first. This engine has got a lot of 8 and 10mm. Of course, when they designed this engine, it was a joint venture between Ford and Mazda. And I'm going to tell you, this has been a really good engine. Oh, last call. Light's dead. Let there be light. Uh-oh. Spring wanted to stick on there. And that one gray one I just pulled out was a new one, because I just had one fail not long ago, and it was the last original coil on this. The original alternator on it went out at 230,000 miles, 236,000 miles, something like that. It finally died. I didn't think that was too bad. I bought a it's amazing what you can find on Amazon anymore. And I found an alternator on there for it. Oh, bolt went on the floor. Alright, got them out of the way. Now it's time for the valve covers. And those are 10s. You're going to need to use a little air ratchet for that. I just did these not long ago, so it kind of sucks that I'm doing them again, but you know, that's what it is. I was hoping this was the oil leak when I looking for it the first time, but this poor little air ratchet has seen its better days. The head's been rebuilt like 3 or 4 times. I like it because it's fast, but it's not too fast when the head just sits there and slips. That harness is just in the way if you can't tell. There's one down there. I got that one loose. Either that or it was left loose, which that's entirely possible. Remember how I got to that one last time. Yep, that's how I got to it last time. Now I'm thinking there's one more down underneath this radiator hose. I think. You have to just do the field test. Nope, that's all of them. Nope, we got this one over here. The last one right there. And is it a different size? It is a different size. That was mighty nice of them. Alright. Poof. Remember, this dude was a booger to get out last time too. Alright guys and gals, because I'm sure there's probably a gal or two that probably watches this stuff. Anyway, while I was gone, or while you were gone, I took this coolant reservoir here out of the way, which I got it stuck down in there now. It just sits over here on this other side. But anyway, here's something that you guys ought to pay attention to. Well, not necessarily, but this engine has 262,000 miles on it. Never been into, never done any major mechanical repairs. This is a prime example of what good maintenance is. This thing has used 5W20 or 5W30, mostly 5W30, synthetic blend or full synthetic all of its life. It gets changed every 5,000 to 6,000 miles, and religiously. And I don't fart around with this thing. When I want it to go, it goes. And I can't tell you, it's been a great engine. If you look down those intake ports, you can see they're pretty clean too. And that's just running good gasoline. In fact, right now, I run they call it E90, which is ethanol free, and it's nice and clean on the inside. Anyway, I took this mount off too, the mount that sits right here. There's a mount that sits down there in that hole. You got to take it out to be able to get to everything. You got to take this power steering pump off, the belt tensioner that's down there that you can't see. See if I can shed some light on it. There's a little bit of light. The belt tensioner right there, it's going to have to come off. There's your power steering pump. The alternator is way back down in there, and it has to come off too, because the bracket actually ties to the timing cover. So we got to get all that stuff off. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a block of wood on a crate and get it underneath of it to pick the engine up a little bit, and get the belt off the belt tensioner and power steering pump, get that out of the way. Then we'll move to the underside of the engine, pull the harmonic balancer off, the bolts for the oil pan, and we should be able to get to the alternator and get that off. Hey y'all, I haven't been recording everything. I've been kind of working as I go. My time's kind of short, but if you notice, I'm down to the cover. I've got the power steering pump off, which is held on by a bunch of bolts. And I just had to make a parts store run. Because if you look down in that valley right there, it was all wet down in there too. So that means the power steering pump was leaking. And so I picked it up and looked at the bottom side of it, and sure enough, you can see right there, it's all wet right there with fluid. And you know, Fords take transmission fluid for their power steering systems. So yeah, the whole back of that thing was wet. So we're going to replace it while we're in here. It only makes sense. That way we're fixing, well, at least trying to fix most of the leak. But you can tell it was leaking down this front cover here and down in there. You can see the alternator a little better now. But I got to get that dude off. I got to get the balancer off, and then all the bolts are ready to come out. One thing I didn't mention, I'm going to go ahead and throw chains and tensioners in here while I'm in here and replace the guides, just as a maintenance deal, since it's got so many miles on it. The chains are tight, I mean, and they don't rattle or anything like that, but I'm also going to put an oil pump in it, again, because of mileage. So that's what we're working towards. I'm getting there, but like I said, my time's kind of short and I'm kind of pressed for it, so doing the best we can with what time we got. Anyway, I'll get back with you when I get the cover off. We got a lot of bolts, and yeah, we'll go from there. Alright, so we're back here with you. I finally got the cover off, and I'm glad I decided that I was going to put chains in this thing at the same time, because this guide right here is cracked up at the top on the chain material here, and on this one over here I barely touched it and it broke up there at the top. So yeah, I'm definitely glad I'm putting chains in it. But that covers a pain in the butt. As you can see, there's the alternator hanging back there. I already took the bracket off, and the noise you hear in the background is the hot tank running, cleaning the cover up. So anyway, I still got to get the oil pan off so I can get to the oil pump right there, because there's 2 bolts on this pickup tube right here I got to take off. So I'm going to look up the procedure for the chains. It's pretty similar to others, but you know, when you don't do them every day, it's not like you're a human library or nothing. You have to look things up. But anyway, that's where we're at. When I get ready to do the timing procedure, I'll try to record it for you. So, all right, guys, we're back. Well, at least for now, anyway. So, these chain guides were due to be replaced for sure. If you can see right there in the reflection, there's a little lip right there. That's all where it's worn the guide. They were definitely due to be replaced. And this one here, when I've just touched it, it just snapped off. So they were due. You get a new set from Chloe's. It comes with all the guides, both tensioners, and the crank gears. That's part number right there. And I do believe this set works for both the 2.5 and the 3.0. Not sure yet. But we're there at the oil pump, so got to get the oil pump off so I can. Well, I don't know why it shut off, but oh well. Again, got to get this oil pan off so I can get this pickup tube off. The cams are kind of unique. The crank has 2 ways, as you can see where the keyway is now. It's at 11 o'clock. In other words, that's supposed to be for bank 2, or the front bank. Neutral position is what they call it. And that's when you can take the chain off of that one. When you do the rear chain, that keyway has to be over here at 3 o'clock. And then you can set everything up. So right now you can rotate the crank without causing any damage. Not that I'm going to. Now's the time before you put all the chains on, because you got plenty of room. Clean your gasket material off the side. Do not use a roll-lock disc. Use a plastic scraper or something that's not real sharp, because if you gouge the aluminum, it will cause a leak. It will have a leak path for oil to go through. You don't want that. So I've just got a flat, dull blade, and it won't hurt this. Don't use a roll-lock disc, because it puts all that metal shavings in your oil, and then you wash it down and it can take out the bearings. Not a good idea. So anyway, so we'll get the pan off of it, and we'll get the oil pump swapped out. For that one, I've got a new melling pump. Yeah, so when I get ready to go back together, I'll record the whole thing for you. Another note, you're working with aluminum here on these bolts. So torque is very, very important. You can pull the threads on aluminum real quick, and you'll have a bad day after that. So use a torque wrench. Get a good one, use it. So I'll be back with you. All right, you'll have to forgive the noise for the compressor since it's right outside my door. Probably ought to turn that fan off too. You probably won't be able to hear anything. All right, got our new pump. Since this thing is dry, well, it's not dry, it's got some lubrication in it, but I'm gonna go ahead and kind of give it some oil. And then rotate this gear inside here. That way you know you're not starving the pump when you first start it, and it's coming out the other side. So it's nice and oiled up. This dude just slides on there. There is a flat spot in the crank on both sides, and you want to try to line that up with the two flats that are in there. It'll take a few times to get everything lined up like you want it. But once it's there, it'll slide right on. There it goes. All right, now there is no gasket behind it. It's a machine fit. And it takes just these 4 bolts, holds it on. I know my big arm's in the way. There you go. There's 4 of them. And the torque sequence is 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes to 89 inch-pounds. So we're just gonna run them down with just snug. And that's not gonna turn, so, all right. Get your torque wrench. And these little dudes are 89 inch-pounds. Not foot-pounds, inch-pounds. Okay. There's 1. No, not all the way down. 2, 3, and 4. And go over them one more time just for safety. Just like that. All right, it came with a new O-ring, so I already put the new O-ring on the tube there. So that goes up in there. Make sure you get it on the stud before you try to tighten it up. All right, it's the same torque spec on these, 89 inch-pounds. Alright, then you get your tube nut that's back in here. And that one is torqued to everything's so freaking oily. It's torqued to 44 inch-pounds and then 45 degrees. Let's see if this wrench goes down that far. I don't think it does. I think it goes to 60. Yeah. Well, 60 is going to get pretty close. That ought to be good there. All right. Alright, now we're time for the timing gear. Well, that's kind of cool. On the Clories, they made this gear all one piece. On the factory one, it's two pieces. Interesting. Slide that dude on there. And we should be ready for some timing chains. Now if you notice on these chains, they're marked. These two marks, since they're so close together, are going to be the cam gears, and that one's your crank gear. I think what we'll do is we'll lower it down so you guys can see that part. Okay, that's zoomed in as far as I can go. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but we'll try it. Alright, your two marks that are close together. It's going to go like this. And there's a mark right here. That's where you're going to put one of your teeth. Just like that. And your other one, your mark is right here. Okay, it's not lining up, so we need to rotate the camshaft a little bit. Okay, I figured this might be a little easier. You can see that mark there. There's a real clear. And the other mark is right there. If your two links are on there, you're in the right spot. Alright, your bottom one should line up with that flat right there, which we don't have the guides or anything on it yet. It's kind of hard to do this and hold the camera. That's the wrong, goes on the inside one there. There's going to be off one there, so just kind of flop it around there. Well, I might have to do this off of camera because I can't get it close enough for you guys to watch it, I don't think. It's not working out that way anyway. Well, you really can't see that side of it, but... Okay, put this chain on, chain guide on. That one goes in that hole right there. Yeah, this isn't gonna work. You guys can't see it. I'll be back with you when I get that one on and show you that it's right. Okay guys, there is the number one. You see the link and the mark on the gear. If you look up there at the top, right up here is the link, and then there's a number one mark there, and it's the same on the exhaust cam. Now this was kind of misleading when it said, because in the illustration it shows this mark as being top dead center, but and then in the instructions it says count 29 links from the number one up to the exhaust cam, and that's what I've got. So we're gonna go with it and see what happens. Okay, I don't know what happened to my audio on this last bit, but basically what we're looking at is I've got the second chain on, and if you notice both the marks are lined up, and the back chain sets up similar to the front chain. So there's the mark there at the top where I'm pointing my finger. You can see the link, and there's the other link there. Same thing, you got to count the number of links, but everything lines up. Now if you notice, the tensioners are there, but they've still got the pin in it. I still have to tighten everything up, but they're loose until you pull those rings out at the tensioner. Once you pull the rings out, then it'll apply tension to the guides, and you're good to go. If you noticed, I've got the rails all cleaned up, the pump's all in, everything's torqued. I've cleaned all the rails off, and you'll have to put silicone right there at that groove. There's a couple of them there. There's one there. Try to keep them out of your bolt holes if you can. And you got one right there, one right there, one there, and one over there. And you'll want to put silicone on those grooves or you'll get a leak. It'll follow the path of oil. So at any rate, it's pretty simple. The only thing we got left to do is put the covers back on the pans and pull the clips out of the tensioners. You'll double check all your torque on all your bolts and all your fasteners and make sure they're right, because you don't want to have to go into it twice, that's for sure. It's not a... Hey y'all, I don't know what happened to the rest of my video on Bessie's deal. I don't know if I managed to erase it or didn't record it. I don't know. I know I was pressed for time when I was trying to get this done. We had to leave out of town for a family deal like the next day. So I was relying on this thing to make a 3,000 plus mile round trip without any issues. And so I was kind of pressed for time, but at that point I'd done everything that was of any importance. I did the chains. The only thing I had left to do there was pull the chain tensioners and put the covers back on, put the rest of the engine back together, which is basically the reverse of the tear down. Again, I can't stress enough the importance of torque. A couple of the other things that I didn't post on there, I did end up putting a new harmonic balancer on it, and the only reason why I did that is because of the mileage. And usually the rubber that goes around the in between the pulley itself and the balancer hub gets dry rotted, and then the pulley will start slipping on it. So I went ahead and replaced that. I did replace the power steering pump and got everything back together. And I'll have you say it's been about 6,000 miles now since that job was done, and there is no leaks. Runs like a top. Only bad thing is I still got that exhaust leak on that back exhaust manifold, and I'm dreading that because I'll probably have to drop the engine out to get to it, because I know there's at least one or two broken bolts off in the head. And hopefully I don't have to pull a cylinder head to do it, because then I'll just get to do this whole job over again. But I don't know any other way around it. Anywho, I hope this video helped you a little bit. I know it has nothing to do with the Camaros, but this is everyday stuff that you guys that got your daily drivers are going to have. Maybe the Camaro's your daily driver, and I envy you for that, because I sure miss mine. But
this kind of stuff you got to do anyway. So if you liked what you see, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I do answer the comments. I'm tickled to death to have you along for the ride. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And until the next time, we will see you later. God bless y'all. Bye.